Good evening, everybody. Following the release of the Ministerial Order number M192, whereas a provincial state of emergency due to COVID-19 has been declared, municipal councils may hold their meetings via electronic means. Please be aware if you're attending this meeting, our meetings are recorded for future viewing. I'd like to acknowledge that we are privileged to gather on the traditional territory of the Kwakwaka'wakw peoples, and I'll call the meeting to order. For adoption of the agenda, I'd like to suggest pulling item 10B until the affected residents' feedback has been solicited and received. Just wondering how council feels about that.
I'm sorry, I'm missing something there.
Oh, 10B is the application for Board of Variance, and I was just saying that I'd like to suggest pulling the item until the affected residents' feedback has been solicited and received. There was a step that was missing that needs to occur first.
What residents are we speaking of?
It's on application for the Board of the Development Variance 10B in your agenda package.
Okay, I guess, yeah, I can't read it. It's not very clear on the bottom of my printed document, but I did read through it and I did go look at the residents and I did read the act, and I think we need to deal with it because I don't think we need to talk to anybody.
Actually, though, one of the steps of the process is that they have to approach the neighbors or anybody who may be affected and get feedback from them. So it's,
absolutely.
Yeah,
but
so that
I think we need to establish if council has the authority to override a decision of the Board of Variance. The act doesn't make that clear to me, so it doesn't make it clear to you.
Shelley Downey, Councillor Downey.
Sorry, I would motion that we defer this until our next meeting.
So seconder, Anne-Marie Barron, Councillor Barron. Discussion on that? Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Yeah, I would like to deal with it today. I'll be voting against this. I'm of the opinion, well, I think we should talk about it. I don't think it should have gotten this far at all. So it'd be great to have a better understanding of it. And if it needs to go back to the table next week to get residents, I don't see a problem with that. Okay. Thank you.
All right, well, there is a motion on the table then to defer it until resident feedback can be solicited. So all those in favor? Opposed?
All right.
Okay, carried. So that will be tabled until that feedback is solicited and likely be on the next agenda then. So any other additions or amendments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, then can I have a motion please to adopt the amendment as agended? Adopt the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Downey, seconded by Councillor Barron. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'll blame it on the heat where I am. Item 3A, we've got Kevin Brooks from McElhaney to discuss the next steps for our official community plan and our zoning bylaw. That's under petitions and delegations. Good evening, Kevin. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How's everyone doing?
Good. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Oh, very good. Can you let me share my screen, please?
I'll turn that over to Pete to do, our CAO.
Yep, you should be good.
Thank you. So I have just a brief presentation, just to provide a little bit of an update of where we're at. I did see that Pete provided the engagement summary that we sent out a month and a half ago and the latest, our updated work plan. So this is just a little bit of reiteration of some of that information that's in that work plan, just to discuss what our next steps are going to be now that council has at least had a chance to see an opportunity to review the documents at this stage and what we can do next. Please feel free to ask questions while I'm presenting. It's certainly not intended to be a formal presentation by any nature. So if we talk about the process, the last time we chatted back at the beginning of March is talking about finalizing the survey review and drafting the policy documents and regulatory documents, which we have done through April and May and have provided that to council. I reviewed that with staff and then now it's with council. Now it's time for consultation. We had basically put the process on hold until we could finally all meet in person. And it looks like that time is now upon us. So it's time to get back out there and start talking to people about what we've done and where to go from here. Next stage is to have the review, like I said, with council. We do need to send the document out to the regional district, the school districts, and the Ministry of Transportation for review. We should also reach out to the First Nations in the community also. And of course, the in-person public engagement that now needs to occur. From there, we take all that information again and we finalize the policy framework for the final documents that we provide back for the legislative approval process. Engagement to date, this is right out of the engagement summary. So we're starting phase 3 now. So in phase 1 and 2, we did do focus groups, the online interactive mapping, of course, the one mapping workshop session and the 3 surveys. 2 surveys were focused on the official community plan zoning bylaw, which are the first 2, with the 3rd being the active transportation priorities survey. Where we're at now is the phase 3 engagement process under the current proposal is to do an additional survey based on the revisions that we get from council and staff, and then the in-person public workshop, which then is utilized to finalize those documents. And so this is the tasks of how we see it generally with regards to timelines. If we follow this process, we see a survey coming out sort of mid-July with in-person public workshop, either end of July, early August, depending on what timing fits best. During that same time frame, we can start looking at referral of this document to the province, just to give them a heads up it's coming and some lead time for their review. And then with the final OCP and zoning bylaw, ideally drafted for your review by the end of August, with a presentation to council shortly after that of that document. And then stepping into the approval process, the legislative approval process in early September. The legislative approval process is, as you know, is the same as any rezoning process or any other amendment process. It requires first and second reading of council, a public hearing, and then 3rd reading and adoption. The public hearing will be another opportunity for the community to speak in regards to the actual policy framework and zoning bylaw. When we talk about the phase 3 consultation, I've mentioned 2 things that are currently written in the proposal, and that is the survey and the in-person workshop sessions. There are other opportunities, of course. We have focus groups in the APC that we have kept informed throughout this process. And of course, having detailed in-person council sessions is another opportunity that there is. All is great input, and so there's definitely some opportunities here if council wishes to do some of these items. With the council sessions, I will let you know that if we're going to do the council sessions, I recommend that we do full workshop style council sessions. These are working sessions where we would sit down together and go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. These will usually take 3 to 4 hours. We could likely clump the mapping session and policy review session together in a 3 or 4 hour session. But the zoning review session, because zoning is so complex and technical, I suggest that be separated out and ran in its own separate session where we can do the zoning mapping, but also look at all the various changes we've made to that document because they are significant. There's a lot of things in that document that are unlawful and occur in a manner that contravene like the BC Building Code and things of that nature. And to get into those in detail to be able to understand why we've done certain things will take that kind of time. So what it comes down to is how would council like to proceed? We have a lot of opportunities here, and we're finally able to meet in person to delve into this stuff and put pen to paper. So
Great. Before I go to questions from council, I just want to let everybody know that I'm working off of my tablet because I am not at home. So if I miss you and you have your hand up, I may not see it. Just wanted to let you know ahead of time. So questions from council for Kevin Brooks? Go ahead, Councillor Mitchell.
I note that, Kevin, you mentioned that there were some significant changes within the zoning bylaw. And it would really be useful if I, as a councillor, could compare the new bylaw change by change to the old bylaw, so I would understand what is being changed. For me to go through the bylaw and find all those changes, I need a month. I don't have that much free time. So I would like to see every change that was made and know what was crossed out and what was put in its place. I know that is a fresh bylaw, so it wasn't quite that way, but nevertheless, the events or the things that are changing were addressed in both bylaws for the most part. And so I would like to know exactly what those are so that I can make a reasoned judgment whether I'm in favor of it or not.
Through Mayor Wickstrom, Councillor Mitchell, we do have a track changes document. It's about 120 pages long or something of that nature. If council wishes to see that, I'm sure I can have Pete send that through to your team to take a look at that. What I would recommend is that we do that in-person session and I explain it to you in person. The reason I say that is the bylaw isn't comparable straight across, even though the zones are fundamentally the same. Because of the way the bylaw was written, it's completely been reorganized. So there may be a section at the very end of the bylaw that's now not there and it's in a completely different section. There's pieces of that are embedded in zones that we've reconsolidated into the general provisions section. So they're not, again, a direct cross comparison. So you can't take the bylaw and set it side by side and understand where things have gone to without really being able to sit down with you and explain going through the bylaw and why we've moved things to certain sections and the reasons for that and where they actually ended up and why that is the case.
And that's not contained within a document, so it's just going to be kind of ad hoc.
No, we have a track changes document and you're more than welcome to look at it, but I don't think it will provide what you're hoping it will, but we can provide that if you really wish to look at it.
Well, I guess I want to know if there's a fundamental change, for example, in on-street parking in residential areas or whatever. You know, I want to know that. And that, I mean, it's just one thing, but I want to know every change that was made so that I can say, okay, I'm in favor of that or I'm not, because this is something that we're going to have to live with for a long time. And we're going to have to defend it to our constituents, to our residents. And so I want to be able to defend it, and I can't defend what I don't understand. And so if I can't look at the raw data and see, okay, they added this in, it was nowhere before and now it's here. Backyard chickens is a prime example, right? I saw that, right? It wasn't there before, now it's here. I'm not saying whether I'm for or against it, but it's important that I know that it's there. I knew it wasn't there before because we talked about it. So I knew that you added, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. But there may be a lot of other things that have been added that didn't exist in any bylaw before. I want to know what those are, every one of them, so I can make an opinion. I don't want to be having to read through it and list all that myself. I don't think I should be doing that. So I need that done for me.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll stop now. I think I've talked enough.
Councillor Downey.
I just would say that I'm in support of having these sessions with Matt Mullaney to go through the mapping, the policy review, and the zoning bylaw. I'd be in support of that. Just for the fact that, you know, we have not had the in-person meetings that we had hoped for going through this process. So I appreciate the offer and I would like to take us up on it.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Yes, I'm in favor of the in-person meetings, but I would like to be, like Councillor Mitchell, as prepared as possible. So I think a combination of both. The meetings will go quicker if we've got that information ahead of time. So I'm hoping that can be provided, and we'll come better prepared with questions, and hopefully it goes less time at the meeting. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kevin? Councillor Barron?
I was just going to say, I go through WorkSafe BC regulation reviews, and Part 16, for example, has just had a huge overhaul. They didn't just do a housekeeping, they did a huge overhaul. I understand exactly what you're saying, Kevin. Their stuff goes from here to there and everywhere else, and I'm just going to trust that I don't need to see the truck changes, because it's been so long since this was done. There's going to be so many fundamental things. I think it almost just makes more sense to move forward, and what you put in front of us, say yay or nay, or why do I understand that, rather than try to go back to the original, because the original wasn't actually where it was supposed to be.
So what I think I hear you saying, Kevin, is that that document is available for those who wish to see it, and for those who are okay with the process of meeting with you and reviewing it that way, that option is available as well. And obviously the ones that want the track changes will be at that meeting as well. So that can be made available to you, Councillor Cole and Councillor Mitchell, and anyone else who would like it. Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none then, thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate you coming this evening and explaining the process for us. So I guess the next thing then is to, do we do some public consultation first, or meet and or set a date to meet with you?
I'm hitting about 8 buttons. I think what I recommend is that Pete and I sit down and provide a few dates that may work, and we can send them through to council to maybe even like a Google poll or something like that to figure out what dates make most sense. What I'd recommend, if we're going to come up, that we may come up for a couple days and hit all the focus groups and the area planning commission during the same trip. So we do one trip, we come up, we work with council, and we work with the focus groups and things of that nature all in one trip. And then we can compile all that information, revise, and then that's what we get to take out to the public for our public consultation component. And so we'll provide a few dates to give you guys options, and then we'll select a date and we'll get everything going. Okay,
thank you very much. Question for you, is that a Stanley Cup behind you?
Everybody asks that. I wish. McElhaney and several other consultants around British Columbia do the Charity Cup once a year.
Okay.
In hockey, and our team won it last year.
Okay. All right. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Take care.
All right. Item 4A, minutes of June 8th, 2021, regular council meeting. Motion to adopt. Actually, any changes or amendments? And then if there are none, a motion to adopt. Go ahead, Councillor Barron.
I just had one question. 151-2021. I thought we had said hydro as well. Conroy's in there, Osborne and Horgan. But I think.
Yeah, we did mention BC Hydro, and I think it's in our package here as well this evening. So that was in there.
Okay.
We'll be talking about which ones and what topics council would like to meet later on in the agenda. But we'll make that amendment. Add BC Hydro under that. Any other amendments? Okay, seeing none, then can I have a motion to adopt the minutes as amended? Moved by Councillor Barron, seconded by Councillor Downey. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, item 7A, we've got May 2021 operations report. Any questions? Otherwise, move for receipt. Okay. Seconded by Councillor Downey. Any questions at all? Seeing none, then all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next, we have the Harbour Information Centre May 2021 operations report. It's your pleasure, Council.
Move receipt.
Seconded by Councillor Barron. Questions at all? I believe we do have our harbor manager this evening here with us. So you're unmuted, Councillor Mitchell. Did you want to ask a question or not?
No, I didn't. Thank
Oh,
you.
Okay, all right.
Here I am,
Um,
just moving paper around.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it.
I appreciate
All
it.
those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Public Works, May 2021 Operations Report. I believe that, let me just check participants. I believe Julian is in, our Public Works manager is in the room. No, he's not. Never mind.
Move receipt.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Downey. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, May 2021 check listing. Any questions on that? If not, move receipt, please.
Move receipt.
Councillor Downey and Barron. Did you have a question, Councillor Cole, before I go on to the next call?
No, I'm just ready to
Okay,
vote with
All
my
right.
camera on. Sorry.
okay. All those in favor?
Bye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Item 7E, our statement of financial information. And is Kevin going to be out of the meeting soon, or is he sticking? Yeah. Okay, I'll turn that over to Claudia, if you would like to present or add anything. Welcome, by the way. And you are muted in case you're talking.
All right, sorry about that. I'm trying to get this to, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, sorry about that. Yeah, so this is the SOFI reports. These are due June the 30th. They include the financial statements, the audited financial statements. Then we go forward with, I see that, I think something happened to my table of contents. It's not quite presented correctly, but it seems to have fallen away after the COVID. But then we go to the all of the items that are required, and there is a checklist, and that's also included. And it's really just for information for council, and this will be public information.
And are you talking about the scheduled, is that the scheduled information?
Yes.
Is that what you're referring to? Okay.
Yes, I just don't see it on my table of contents. It
Okay.
looks like the table of contents got changed, so I'm not sure what happened there. But maybe it's, yeah, my computer. So there's all those schedules and they are part of it, and that's the order that, oh no, there they are. Sorry, my mistake. Somehow I must have just skipped by it. And of course, it needs to be signed by the mayor and myself when council gives the approval for it to be go forward.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Claudia on the statement of financial income report? Okay, none. All right. Move then that council approve the town of Port McNeill statement of financial information for the year 2020. Moved by Councillor Barron, seconded by Councillor Downey. One last question. Any other questions? Or sorry, one more chance. Any other questions for Claudia? No. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, bylaw 8A. This is our revenue anticipation bylaw 702/2021. Anything, and we do this every year, anything you wanted to add, Claudia, to our this bylaw?
Right, so this revenue anticipated bylaw is strictly because we have a basically a line of credit through the CIBC Bank of about 600. So if the town ever was in a situation where we needed that, we must have the revenue anticipation, anticipated by law. This is actually for 2 years, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
For this year and 2022. We haven't used it since I've been with the town, and I'm not sure, I haven't seen it used previously. I think at one time there was, like previously, a few years back, there was the need for it. It's just more of a formality, I think.
And something that we need to have in case we have to draw on that, correct?
Well, no, we don't really have to have it. It's just if we have the line of credit, if we want to keep the line of credit, we have to have the anticipated revenue bylaw. If we don't, if we want to let the line of credit go, then we don't need this bylaw.
Okay, thank you. So can I have a motion, please, that council give the, actually first, any questions on that? Apologies for Claudia. Okay, seeing none, then can I have a motion that council give the revenue anticipation bylaw number 702, 2021, first, second, and third reading as per ministerial order 192, division 4, section 12A11.
So move.
Seconded,
Second.
Councillor Barron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. And then as per the same ministerial order, we can adopt a bylaw on the same day. So can I have a motion, please, to adopt the bylaw? Fourth and final reading by Councillor Barron, seconded by Councillor Downey. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have item 9A, greenhouse gas emissions tracking. So this was something requested by council to see if we would be able to continue tracking our greenhouse gas emissions. Is Laura with us today? Okay, yeah. I'll just have her come into the room because she prepared the report. Great, thanks. So yeah, as you can see, she lets us know how much it takes per month to track, and then also the year-end report, the amount of time that it takes. So questions for our finance assistant, Laura?
Is this something that's necessary for us to do, Mayor Wickstrom?
No, it isn't, but it was something that we had just looked at to see how much time it would take and to possibly continue the tracking of it, that it might come in handy down the road for any applications, grant applications that we would put in. And I believe it was Councillor Cole who made the motion to just see how onerous it was for staff to do the tracking. And so as you can see, the tracking per month isn't that bad. It's the reporting that takes up a lot of time and is onerous without the assistance of the CARE program for our staff. So what's your pleasure? Councillor Barron?
Just out of curiosity, just to ring my bell, that the CARE report is now no longer?
That's correct. It was,
we don't have to do that. So that 1 to 2 days at the end is ixnayed, but the monthly tracking, I think I agree. It could come in handy later, and it would really suck to go back and try and figure it all out from an AP perspective. So if we're looking for direction here, I would say that we continue the monthly tracking, and we don't have to worry about the annual reporting.
Okay, so that is a motion then to just move to continue with the monthly tracking. Okay. Seconded by Councillor Downey. Any questions? Comments?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to track it for 30 minutes a month, because there could end up being some grant money available based on how much we've improved in somebody's eyes. So why not do it? As long as we can drop the 1 to 2 days reporting, which doesn't benefit us, then I would be in favor of 30 minutes a month. Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of staff tracking every month? Opposed? Carried. Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, item 9B. UBCM annual conference. So that's our meeting request form. So at the last meeting, I had asked that council, you can see here that we have to provide a brief topic and a bit of background and which ministers would you like to meet with. So we can't just request to meet with everybody without actually having a topic and submit that into the ministerial office. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Mitchell.
Mayor Westrom, I had two things that I'd like to see us meet with Hydro to discuss moving that second tier rate threshold to a fair level for rural communities that don't have the option of natural gas and other things that would allow them to get a better deal. And so that would be one meeting, and the other one would be, I was listening to Horgan yakking away, and he said, they're going to help us transition when they wipe out forestry. So I think we need to have a meeting with them and say, okay, we're in line for transition money, and we bring a pen and a checkbook for them and see if we can get some money.
Would that be the Premier's office or Minister Conroy?
Well, it was Horgan that made all the noise that I heard, but I can't say for sure. I'm not very connected there, but one of them or both.
So regarding, go ahead, Councillor Barron.
When do we have to have the, I'm assuming this is a print off of kind of like Pete, CAO, you'll be filling this. This is probably like a website contact info that's printed off here. So when does this have to go? When does this have to go in?
It has to be, well, that part's missing here. When was it, Pete? I believe it was the end of the month.
I do believe it's June 30th.
30th, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can tell you that the regional district will be meeting with BC Hydro regarding the streetlight program. There's some issues with the fact that we don't have a choice on the lighting and then the general cost. And I believe they're also going to be bringing up the two-tiered rate for rural, in which case usually there's multiple communities go in on that. Gives a little bit more clout. I did reach out to Greg just to find out, but I haven't found out anything else yet, what else the RD is involved in.
Minister Osborne, I think I'm going to pound my fire department drum here. It's great that we got that grant money, which seemed to be kind of geared towards fire departments at the time, but she's the minister for the municipalities, and that's a huge burden that we're bearing. So to me, that might be a good topic, other than having her tell us what she's going to do for us. That might be a good topic, is that the fire department keeping it up. And I mean, it says on here, Minister Conroy, the intentions paper, there's a really big land use project going on up here that I don't really know a whole lot about. And the exposure I've had to it isn't really giving us a whole lot of answers yet. So even just to have that discussion with both Conroy and Horgan on, and I'll probably say it wrong, Guani. I can see the drawing, but I can't say it. Even just to have the discussion on the involvement and what their plans are. Never mind, old growth is a great topic as well for both of those people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that the Numkeys did say that they wanted to meet with us, but then each time I kind of reach out, they've got that project, they've got Atlee, they're working on a lot of things and under capacity. So it probably would be a good idea to meet with a minister on that and just find out.
Even just to get a bit of an idea of the framework of what they're actually anticipating. Do they have a framework, or is it just kind of as things come along and people have ideas, is that what's building it, or is there actually a working document that is the intention?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I've heard then so far is that request a meeting with BC Hydro regarding the two-tiered rate threshold and how that affects rural areas. Premier Horgan regarding the transition plan that he spoke about for forestry And Minister Osborne regarding fire department funding, continuation of that, and Minister Conroy regarding Gwenai. Now, can I ask council if there are any duplications here, would council be amicable to be going along with other communities so that we're going in 2 and 3 at a time to speak on a topic that may be duplicated? Councillor Downey?
I know that is, we have done that in the past, but I feel like our voice gets muted in amongst the many. And I think that it would be good if we did ask for our own meeting.
Okay.
Could we add on to the hydro one something along the lines of some assurances from them about their line maintenance, because the last 2, correct me if I'm wrong, major power outages that we've had have been because of trees along the line that were out in the middle of nowhere, and in the middle of a windstorm, you can't take a helicopter out to find out where the tree is. And maybe just to get some assurances from them that they're got a plan in place. Windstorms are going to happen, but at least what are they doing about getting their keeping up on the
maintenance, preventative
maintenance? Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
And Premier Horgan, it was the transition plan for forestry. Minister Osborne, it was for further fire department funding. And Minister Conroy, oh, sorry, with a C, regarding the Gwenai, GWA''NAI project, or yeah, initiative Gwenai.
And maybe on a bit of a broader term, the forestry transition is going to be very direct to us, but on a broader term, how about Mr. Premier Horgan under it?
Okay. Now, if I could ask council that if you could send Pete as soon as possible some point form concerns, the reasons why you wanted these meetings, so that he can draft or staff can draft these requests and capture the essence of what it is we want covered when we meet with them, that would be excellent. If I can ask that of you, please. Just so that we don't go into the meeting and say, oh, this wasn't quite what we wanted. Thank you. I can't see behind the screen. I have to, hang on a sec, I got to move you guys over. That staff request meetings with the following ministers and boards to discuss and then those items, and that council supplies staff with key points for each minister and BC Hydro. Okay, so.
Mayor Wickstrom, can I make that a motion and we get it official?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So Councillor Cole will move that, seconded by Councillor Barron. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay. So we'll move on to 9C, which is the 2021 Canada Celebrate considerations. And as you can see in my report, I did reach out to Chief Svanvik and Chief Hunt. And yeah, both were, Chief Svanvik's exact words were, we're going to leave it up to you. How's that for being political? And Chief Hunt also said, you know, something smaller. They both agreed that something smaller is not necessarily a big deal. And we weren't really planning a celebration. It was just a barbecue on Canada Day. However, as stated in the report there, Chief Hunt said that the support of municipalities shows the nations that steps are being taken to understand history. And just by way of information, Port Hardy and Alert Bay won't be holding events that day. So what's your pleasure, Council? Councillor Downey?
Sorry.
I would just like to read the chief of the Kamloops First Nation has said that she would like Canadians to continue to mark Canada Day, even if the recent discovery near the former Kamloops residential school cast the celebration in a different light. So she has said the best way to honor our country and the diversity of its citizens, and in particularly this year, our future generations, is to understand our real and collective history. So I think the plans that we had set in place were indeed minimal for different reasons. And I know I've read the language that other communities have used, which is, please go and celebrate Canada Day in your own way. And I would say that we would suggest that we follow through with the supplies that we have already acquired for this event in advance, the contracts we've struck, and we invite our residents to indeed celebrate in their own way. That we would be providing the material, but that would be our participation.
Mm-hmm. I know that it's very divided. I don't know if it has anybody in the town, anybody reached out to the town at all by way of email?
Through Mayor Wickstrom, nothing that has come to my attention, nothing official.
Yeah. I know, and I've heard both sides from residents as well. So some are in favor of just choosing another date to do the barbecue, and some are okay. So that's why I'm bringing it to council. Councillor Barron?
I'll make a motion that we proceed with the, as it's written down there, barbecue on Canada Day.
Okay. Seconder for that motion? Councillor Downey? Okay. Any further discussion? Councillor
yes.
Cole,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be voting against that. I want to remind everyone we have the flags at half mast down there. We did make a decision to do that, so I think we should stick with that. And considering COVID, we're not quite out of the woods yet. It's right around the corner. That's my input. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I understand Councillor Downey, but I'm leaning towards, simply because it was something simple. It wasn't a grand day that we're going to do, and I was leaning towards postponing it for another day. But
could I get a repeat of the mover and seconder? My apologies.
Oh, sorry, that was Councillor Downey and Councillor Barron and Councillor Downey. And yeah, and in light of Chief Hunt's statement was the other reason, just to shows the nations that steps are being taken to understand the history. Go ahead, Councillor Downey.
As this was first presented, is that we weren't hosting a barbecue at the waterfront. We were making burgers and buns available for residents to either bring their own barbecue down or to take it back to their homes, to their campsite, or whatever their plans were for Canada Day. That's how it was presented to us, and that's what I'm supporting.
Sorry, Councillor Downey, actually, I'm not sure that if we had, my apologies if I had brought it towards council, and that, so we were trying to figure out how to do that logistically. And so then in the town log, it went in that it would be done by the staff at the visitor center. Because I was out of town. I know that you said you could be there for distributing hot dogs and hamburgers, but it had changed slightly at that time and also because the orders had lifted. So my apologies, I should have been clear on that ahead of time. So that is how it's advertised. It's in the town log that way, that it would be held at the visitor center. And we haven't ordered them yet. I will, pending the outcome of this meeting, I told staff that I would order everything and have it in place. And the staff at the harbor front would be barbecuing, and people would just pick up and leave. perhaps sit down at the waterfront. They weren't encouraged to gather. Apologies for that. So I don't know if that changes anything for the two movers and seconders. No, okay. Councillor Downey, go ahead.
Probably just a comment is that we are caught in the middle of either honoring the First Nations on our borders or the First Nation who was impacted with the findings of these 215 grave sites.
Councillor Cole?
I would like to add, we do have First Nations in our town. It's not just our neighbors.
Okay, so there's no further comments. All those in favor of hosting something small? And Councillor Mitchell, I can't see, were you in favor? Were you in favor? Yes. Okay. And opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay. So the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Next, we have item 10A. Application. First of all, I'll ask, are there any conflicts of interest on this particular issue?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. We're on 10A, I assume. Sorry.
Yes, we are on
I
10A.
will step away from the meeting and wait, and then go back in the waiting room, or can I get advice from our CEO?
Yeah, advice from the CAO. Just is waiting room sufficient, or?
Just might be a little quicker than texting back or whatever I was thinking.
Yeah, this is sort of uncharted territory for me. Typically, yeah, we want somebody to leave altogether so they can't influence the rest of council, but I don't think he can do that from the waiting room. So. Okay,
so into the waiting room, then Derek will go.
Well, yeah, I'll just wait a couple minutes and then join back in. Thank you.
All right. So item 10A is the application for cannabis retail at number 5, 311 Hemlock. You have the information in your packet. The LCRB requires a positive recommendation from the local government, and this is why it is before you. It's kind of a redundant process in that we already have a bylaw that supports this. Yeah, if you want to explain the process, our CAO would like to explain that and why it's coming.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom, to council. Yeah, it's I do believe, because this is a new field for the province, is they want to ensure their due diligence prior to allowing these shops to open. And part of their due diligence is ensuring that their support through the local government and support through the residents that may be affected by the opening of the shop. They've left that to our discretion. So in addressing the residents that may be affected, I had the applicant put a sign up in the window, and we used our rezoning bylaw and sent out letters to any residents that were within 100 feet of the proposed location. And just to reiterate what Mayor Wickstrom said, we did go through a process with a committee and a public consultation process to amend our zoning bylaw to allow for cannabis retail in the zone that the applicants have requested. If we were to deny the application or recommend against it, my advice would be that council also rescind the amendment to the zoning bylaw.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions or anything that you need clarified on the application? Councillor Barron?
There is no, I'm thinking back to the Cannabis Committee, and I honestly thought that there was a bit of a public hearing or a public consultation where before it was issued, because I'll be honest, this caught me by surprise coming on the agenda. I'd heard a little bit of scuttlebutt about a week ago, but nobody in my circles has any idea that this is coming. So I don't know, you know, like the 100, are we being representative of everybody, or is it, like you say, is it just kind of a rubber stamp almost?
Can I make a motion, Mayor Wickstrom?
Go ahead, Councillor Mitchell.
I move that we recommend this, we approve this application for cannabis store.
Yeah, so the recommendation in the end says that council support the application made by 100% Cannabis Limited to open a non-medical cannabis retail store at number 5311 Hemlock Street in Port McNeill. That's what
Okay,
you're moving?
I'll move that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You
I
just copy
forgot
and paste
about
that in. Yeah,
It makes it easier.
I'll second that. Any further discussion?
I guess the only thing I have to say is that public input at large outside of the 100-foot radius was already dealt with when we made the bylaw change. So this meeting, or this requirement is just for the people that would maybe be affected by the exact location of it, but the principle of it, we already got the community's approval for that. And was there any objections? I didn't hear that from Pete when you posted those letters. Did anybody come back and say we don't want this?
Not a single person. No, we got no feedback from the residents that we sent letters out to.
Right on.
And that's what's required for the process, correct? We don't have to open up to a wider public consultation process?
No. So the LCRB has left it up to each local government's discretion how we want to do it. You know, whether it's a radio ad, newspaper ads. I felt that the sign and going by our rezoning bylaw was probably the most fair for you know, keeping in line with how we've typically done things.
And one further question: was there anything in that bylaw that stated how the public process was supposed to be taken place, or not?
No, it was just an amendment to the zoning bylaw to allow for cannabis retail in the C1 and C2 zones.
Thank you. Any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Downing.
As part of that cannabis committee as well, I was trying to take you through the notes with having this come at such a short notice to council, but I believe the understanding of the committee is that there was an expectation that the LCRB would be conducting a more in-depth review before this comes in. And so I'm wondering if that in fact did happen, because I think we were considering that they would have vetted and done a lot of the due diligence work before giving approval to this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Downey. Yes, they do have to go through a vetting process, and part of that vetting process is getting the application, a recommendation from the local government on the application. But from my understanding, there's a whole bunch of other like background checks and RCMP checks and whatnot that goes into the LCRB's review of the application.
One thing which speaks to one of the questions. So when a person makes an application, the government doesn't notify you, or do they notify you during that process, or do you find out after the fact?
No, I found out when they requested our recommendation.
Okay. Councillor Barron?
I was just going to say the letter that, page 77, the LRB will initiate an applicant suitability assessment regarding this application, also known as a fit and proper assessment of the applicant and the persons associated. Once the assessment is complete, you will be notified of the LCRB's determination. You may choose to withhold your recommendation until the LCRB has made a final decision regarding the applicant's suitability. So what does that mean? That was May 5th. Has a decision been made since then?
I'm not aware. If council would like to table this decision, I can go back to the LCRB and get a clearer definition of what that sentence means.
Because if you turn it over, if you choose not to make a recommendation regarding this, please contact them. the cannabis cannot be issued until they receive a positive recommendation.
Go ahead, Councillor Mitchell.
This is the step in the process where we say, no, we don't think this person is of the character that we want to own a marijuana store or not. If we don't make that, all we do is delay it for the proponent. This is
And
where we don't wait for the government to do something. They sent us a letter asking for our approval or not. We have to decide. That's why we're here. So I don't see why we would delay it until they do something else.
Yeah, and I think it has less to do with character and more probably the reason that this process goes is that, you know, if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, at what point do we decide that there's a saturation and we don't want any more cannabis shops in our community?
Sure,
but this is the first one, right?
Yeah, I think we need to make a decision and move this forward. It's a local businessman trying to get something off the ground, and all we're going to do by not voting on this is drag it out. We're not going to expedite the process. And our mission should be to encourage entrepreneurs to move forward and provide employment and services to our community. And that's what this is about. So this is something we can support.
If we support it and then the LCRB comes back and says that the final decision wasn't in the favor of the applicant, what happens then?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Because
it would be like a liquor license. They wouldn't get it.
And then they can't open a store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you have to have this license in order to.
Mm-hmm.
This is the next step for the proponent. It's really just a rubber stamp. It's not, we've already agreed we want cannabis stores in the community. So why would we delay it? I call a question, or I ask for you to call a question.
Any other?
Actually, when we were on the committee, Councillor Mitchell, there was, I left there with the understanding that we had agreed to certain zones. We had agreed to one zone that if the clinic ever left, it could not be sold there. Like we were putting a covenant or whatever on that land area. But I also left with the understanding that it wasn't a rubber stamp when something went through. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll call the question. All those in favor of the application? Opposed? Okay, so if you didn't vote, that's affirmative, it passes.
Carried.
Okay, it's carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Apologies, I looked away for a brief second. Was there any opposed?
Yes, Councillor Barron.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't actually put my hand up.
Oh, okay. Well then,
Yeah,
there was no one opposed. I thought I saw your hand. My apologies.
no, it's okay.
Okay.
I made a face.
Okay, we'll wait for Councillor Cole.
I'm back. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, and item, what number? Sorry. 10C is the mayor's report. The only thing that I would like to draw your attention to is Jeff King was contacted me through Check News. That's that show Check Around, the one they started to do during COVID when they couldn't cover news. So the two news guys went around doing funny little vignettes at the end of, throughout the whole Check News hour. And so they will be up in July 13th. They'll be in Port Hardy on July 12th and then on July 13th. And we'll be broadcasting. So what I would like council to do is they're looking for Indigenous content, volunteers, youth, any people of interest, anything happening around Port McNeill. Shelley, I would say any tourism, though it'll be hard to pull out one and not, not have everybody from the tourism industry interviewed, but if there are any interesting things that you know of in Port McNeill, interesting people, please send them and I will send them the list, and then they go about that day all day long just filming various people. and yeah, things that are going on in our community, which is pretty amazing. So they said there'll be about 6 or 7, possibly more little snippets throughout the show. So yeah, kind of exciting. So just put that out there, and if you can get your suggestions to me, if I haven't heard from you, I'll contact each of you, and if you can let me know. In particular, put the youth cap on, which youth in our community that we might be able to highlight and show some of the things that they're involved with or that they're doing. Okay. Any other council reports? Councillor Barron?
I just wanted to say that we had our first meeting of the museum committee, and it was quite exciting. And we're going to have another one next week, working towards getting some information back to council, hopefully by the end of July. And then with my fire department hat on, Chief Tate would like to start some discussion about the appetite for fireworks and where we're seeing. It looks like there will have to be some certifications done. And it's just a matter, there's only, I think, 2 or 3 people in BC who do that. So they want to know that they can go forward and do that. The ordering has to be done, we'll say mid-September. So if everybody can just kind of start thinking about that, and then I assume we would put it on an agenda for a motion or something.
Usually is it what's beginning of September it comes forward from the fire department? I guess it all depends what's happening with COVID, right? That we don't have some sort of an odd wave, but things are looking really great right now.
Okay.
Is that correct, Pete? Usually around beginning of September they come?
Yeah, typically, we will have to keep an eye on the public health orders and promoting gatherings. I'll stay in touch with Chief Tate, and if it comes down to a decision like we had to make last year, then it will come before council. I'm not sure if we put money aside in our budget this year for it, if we're going to have to do some fundraising, or if we're going to have to amend our budget to include funding for that. So those are items I'll have to look into.
Okay.
Could I ask that we try to do something maybe by the beginning of August, because if we've got to go and
train,
there's only 22 of them. I think personally, the training should go ahead anyways, because the tickets are good for a length of time. If it's not this year, it's next year. If it's not Halloween, it's New Year's Eve, who knows? But I have an issue with paying for the whole thing of the fireworks. Dean knows that. I've brought it up before, but I have no issue going and pounding the pavement. So I just want to make sure that we have enough time to pound the pavement. So if we could have it back on an agenda, maybe the beginning of August, we'd have an idea with public health orders, et cetera. And we'd be leaning yay or leaning nay, as opposed to who knows.
And would not with the firework technician certification, would that come out of training budget, or would that be something that we normally do?
I don't know how that's been done in the past. I know how it was done 25 years ago, and it was done out of the fire hall, but budgets were a little bit different then in how money was tracked. So
I think as a liaison, if you can find out how many people need to be certified and come bring that back to us at council, that would be great. Okay.
Sure.
Excellent.
Is there a cost per person, or how does it work?
I would assume since it's essentially a bit of a blasting ticket, it would probably be a cost per person.
And would they do that training here?
Yes, that's what they've done in the past. They've piggybacked with the other departments in the area. When I was married to the fire department, we actually got sent to Edmonton to get it done. So I know now there are a couple guys in BC, and they tend to get a group of guys together and do it locally.
Okay, so you bring that back to council then? Thank you very much. Any other council reports? Okay. Oh, Councillor Downey.
Just a brief one, and this already may have landed on the CAO's desk, and that the Harbor Visitor Info Center is looking into carrying small items for tourists, such as stickers and postcards, So that is something that Rebecca Adams is looking into, and that'll probably be coming forward when she has more information. So it was discussed just for the fact that we would have a town entity, taxpayer-run entity, competing with businesses in town. However, due to the reality that there are many tourists that come through there, small items was felt they would not be taken away from things that are provided by other, other tourist items provided by other businesses in our community. So it's just having it available more as a service. And as I said, it's being explored at this time, and a report will come forward.
Thank you, Councillor Downey. Any other reports? Okay. Seeing none, there are no items from in camera to be made public, but would like a motion to go in camera under section 91A, personal information about identifiable individuals who hold or is being considered for position as an officer, employee, or agent of the municipality or any other position appointed by the municipality. Section 91J, information that's prohibited or information that if presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21, Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, and section 91C, labor relations and other employee relations. Moved by Councillor Barron, seconded by Councillor Downey. Okay, are there any, all those in favor of going in camera? Opposed? Carried. Questions from the public? I'm just going to participant in the chat box up. Are there any questions from the public? And I don't see any. So are there any questions from the press, the media?
He says, no questions. Have a good evening.
Okay, great. All right. So motion to adjourn and go in camera, please. Moved, seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll take a 5-minute break and then see you back on the in-camera link. Thank you.